On December 2nd, 1994, Sony was already a household name, celebrated for its transistor radios, iconic Walkman portable audio players, and videotape recorders. Yet, what lay ahead was unimaginable: the emergence of a gaming giant that would forever alter the industry's trajectory. December 3rd, 1994? Well, that day changed the landscape of gaming forever. The Sony PlayStation was released in Japan. And as we reflect on 2024, it's nearly impossible to imagine our beloved gaming world without the monumental impact of the Sony PlayStation. Since 1995, I've owned every single console and handheld that Sony has made and have played countless classics every year, from the ripe old age of 9 to now. Well, you can do the math. PlayStation is as much a part of my life as any other brand is, so I'd like to celebrate that longevity, prominence, and greatness of this beloved cornerstone of gaming with my top 30 games ever, one for each year, along with a few nice surprises along the way. So grab some snacks, a libation of choice, and get settled in for a nostalgic ride down memory lane. The Gamersician's 30 greatest PlayStation games of every year. Let's kick things off with a few quick rules. These are my personal favorite games from each year, and while you may agree or disagree, I would love to hear about your standout picks down in the comments below. I've tried to focus solely on games that I played when they were released or shortly thereafter. If I played something much later, for example Journey, it didn't make the cut for that year. This list is all about tracing my gaming journey with PlayStation since I unwrapped my original PS1 on Christmas Day in 1995. I've made a conscious effort to avoid repeating the same franchises over and over. I've also skipped over re-releases unless it was my personal first time experiencing the game. I'm also sticking to release dates that are relevant to me, specifically the US PlayStation console launches. With those rules out of the way, I do gotta give a huge, massive shout out to my homie and friend of the channel, Kyle Lexter, for the incredible B-roll footage that you saw to open and the rest that you'll see throughout this video. Kyle is a brilliant videographer with a crazy dope channel full of absurdly well done slice of life videos and reviews that you have got to check out. His link is in the description down below. And finally, if you enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing and liking the video. I have some huge plans for the channel in 2025, and I would love it if you were part of it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Hello, citizens of Europe. As spokesperson for SAPS, the Society Against PlayStation, I'd like to talk to you about a menace threatening humanity. It's happening right here, in our very homes, and corrupting the lives of our loved ones. Yes, friends, I'm talking about this. It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut. How do you know PlayStation is not a normal game system? It carries these telltale signs. Scientists say its effects are mind-boggling. Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Here we have a normal, healthy young man. And here we have a fellow who's been experimenting with PlayStation for only a few minutes. Proof that we SAPs must be on our guard. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Released on October 30th, 1995, Theme Park was a real revelation to a post-Mortal Kombat 9-year-old. I mean, What was better than building a path to absolutely nowhere, only to watch park goers become so livid, or just letting your rides degrade into utter shit, sending passengers flying every which damn way in the process? I loved the diversity in gameplay and outcome in this Bullfrog classic. The construction management sim really isn't a genre that I played much beyond this era, but I have such fond memories of it. Only Ridge Racer stood a chance in this first year of the console. We were just warming up. "1996, Twisted Metal 2. What's up with these Halloween release dates early on? Another year with even more chaos. From coasters to flamethrowers, corkscrews to car combat, Twisted Metal 2 was absolute carnage. Seeing a grown man as the literal thing holding together two giant tires while duking it out with an ice cream toting clown, all for one wish. What a concept. Listen, if you were there, you know. Final Fantasy VII was an absolute monster in its time. Spanning 3 discs, this epic seriously changed everything. I got my copy of Final Fantasy VII for my birthday in September 1997, and it led me down a decade-plus road of almost exclusively living that JRPG life. It still stands as one of my fondest memories and most beloved games ever. Anyone that tells you Final Fantasy VII is overrated, they just didn't live it. This one was special. Sorry, Symphony of the Night. This was one of the most challenging choices I made since 1997. Was such a monster year. Oh boy, now coming off of the absurdly good year of 1997, who could have foreseen that 1998 might actually surpass it? One of the most extraordinary years in gaming gave me one of the greatest games that I've ever experienced, Suikoden 2. This game changed my entire outlook on what video games could even be. The story, the characters, the gameplay systems. This is one of the most passionately made games I've ever experienced, oozing charm from every corner of its existence. Suikoden 1 was a blast, but 2 has yet to be topped. Not even Xenogears, Parasite Eve, or Metal Gear Solid could pry this dub from my beloved. 1998 was wild. Sheesh. Okay, now 99 did cool off a bit, but it definitely had its share of bangers. I mean, Ridge Racer Type 4, which you've seen me cover here on this channel, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, Alpha 3, but my pick has to be Chrono Cross. This game gets its share of shit, certainly, and some of it a bit deserved, but no matter how long it has been, this game has a cozy little nest in my head. One of the most beautiful games ever made, with gorgeous vistas, fascinating character designs, and a unique island charm that lived on in later Square games such as Kingdom Hearts. Chrono Cross packs a weird, quirky punch that you can't forget if you've ever experienced it. Oh, and it just so happens to have the greatest OST
ever made.
Don't at me. It may be flawed, but Chrono Cross seems to just get better with time. As the millennium turned, gaming finally cooled off a little bit more after 2 incredible 1-2 punch years, but that doesn't mean that we weren't still smoldering. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was everything that we loved about the first game, but adding in the absolutely incredible manual. It also contained one of the best licensed soundtracks ever committed to disc. Now, Vagrant Story is my easy runner-up, as it still stands as a game I think needs a remake more than any, probably this side of Xenogears. I have a whole theory that this is the prototypical Dark Souls game, but yeah, we'll save that for a different video. listen, I was never a sports sim guy, but something about A-Spec just hit different. I found myself completely and utterly obsessed with car tuning, sinking hours and hours into endurance races. Hell, GT3 basically taught me how to take tight corners in a real car, as I was just about to go out for my temps in that next year or so. But the absolutely incredible graphics and the entire package with so much to do was the real winner here. Not even games like Devil May Cry, Twisted Metal Black, and Final Fantasy X could take pole position against it. A true powerhouse that really showed off how massive the leap from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 really would feel. Now, the Ratchet & Clank series is so goddamn slept on. The perfect combo of platforming, run and gun combat, and snarky ass jokes. I've loved pretty much every single one of these games. And as the one that started it all, the dynamic of Ratchet and Clank felt so special and different. Also, how can you not get behind a series that names everything with butt jokes? That's the type of juvenile humor that appealed to not only 16-year-old me, but 38-year-old me as well. Secret Agent Clank
is fucking trash though.
And can we get a new Mark of Kree style game, please? I feel like Kree crawled so Batman could flip over perps' heads and smash them together seamlessly. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. Fighting games were a staple of my gaming through my late teens and college years. This is a fun fact about me. Tekken 3's Hwoarang is the whole reason I started Taekwondo back in 2000 and hold a 3rd degree black belt. So yeah, I'm serious about this shit. Virtua Fighter 4 really solidified my love of the fighting arts. The coolest part about Virtua Fighter as a series is how much it tries to mimic actual fights and still does to this day. Being deep in the FGC is definitely my most missed corner of gaming, but damn, does it take a lot of effort to master these games. Maybe Virtua Fighter 6 will bring me back, who knows? Oh, and if Snoop ever revives the Def Jam games, I will actually move to Compton and start whooping feet. That's on my mama, Brody. Yeah. Let's roll up to be a single star in the sky for you. Oh, oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. I was too busy jamming out
to one of the dopest soundtracks ever made.
Listen, this game is weird. Really fucking weird. But I just love Katamari. More of a toy than a game, the bizarre antics of this entire series just keep, I don't know, rolling onward. And it all started here with this first game. Now, I have another theory that Katamari is actually a horror game. Those that know. And it all comes down to the absurd premise, the cacophony of pain and chaos in its sound design, as well as a Hereditary-like generational trauma plotline. Anyway, let me know if you want that video. Until then, go play Katamari, one of the most unique and insane games you could ever hope to pick up. Let's see, we had Luminous, we had Wipeout Pure, God of War. 05 was a return to fire-ass games for me. This was also my first year of college and I had started to turn over a different leaf with my gaming habits. From the time I got my PS1 and up to this point, I was a fiend. But life started to take over and I was a bit less and less hardcore of a gamer. Fewer JRPGs, fewer fighting games. I sort of strayed from anything that took up way too much time. But I was a Devil May Cry 3 master. I poured hours into this game, and from my years of Third Strike, that parry game was second to none. Get your Royal Guard game up, kid. Okay. I sorta lied, I guess. I wasn't quite done with fighting games in this era. I had a little more hardcore in me, one might say. The Tekken series is super important, as I stated before, and Dark Resurrection represented my peak with the entire thing. Whether offline with the boys or online, absolutely bodying fools with my Ling, Bruce, or Eddie, this game represents all the best parts of fighting games for me. Did I already mention how much I miss fighting games? And what is there to say about my beloved God Hand getting a 3 from IGN? This might be the worst review ever written, ever. You know? Now that Clover is back, God Hand 2, a remake? God, hand it to me. Now, the Greek God of Wars just had this incredible balance of difficulty, approachability, and playability. The spectacle, gameplay, and violence really made God of War 2 seem like the sequel that just couldn't stop at the time. I was becoming more and more of a handheld gamer via my PSP as time grew more and more precious, but I never miss a big console numbered God of War. Jeanne d'Arc was my runner-up for this year, and now that it's on PSN Premium, you should try it too. It's a breezy, really fun strategy RPG with loads of character and a superb storyline. Cannot recommend it enough. Now listen, I've loved scary shit since my bro and I would lay in the living room way past our bedtime, watching the heavily edited version of Jason Takes Manhattan on TNT for the umpteenth time. Horror is a genre that touches me through Resident Evil 2, 3, Parasite Eve, and so many others. But nothing, I mean nothing, scared the actual bejesus out of me like the original Dead Space. Playing Dead Space in utter darkness terrified me. It was the not knowing that made the trek through the USG Ishimura the stuff of nightmares. It's well known now, of course, but that first necromorph you tried to headshot only for it to speed up and completely eviscerate our boy Isaac for your stupidity. What a dope subversion of everything that, you know, that zombie series taught us. If I could Men in Black myself and go back in time for any single game, I'm pretty sure it's this one. Here it is, y'all, the official full-on flip I made from console to handheld. 2009 was a year of many firsts for me. I was hard at work on my first full-length album, Absolute. I was training heavily in kickboxing and Muay Thai at this point, as well as helping run a weightlifting gym. You think that would keep me from sinking 600 plus hours into one of my favorite co-op games of all time?
Hell no.
Monster Hunter Freedom Unite was so damn awesome. Running around battlefields, gathering materials, crafting new armor, and beating everything in sight to an inch of life was amazing. Oh, and the Palicos, I mean, come on. In the years since, I've tried to get into other Monster Hunters, but I think the time sink is absolutely terrifying to my brain at this point, but I will always remember this era so fondly. Gunlance boys, mount up. Now,
Y'all thought I was playing, huh?
I really was deep into the handhelds during this era. Grabbing a game or two on the go was the name of the game, and my PSP was doing some serious work during the dark hour. Persona 3 Portable is incredible. I love the atmosphere. I love the characters. I love the storytelling. I did always wish I could play the big Persona 3, but all of Portable's additions were nice, even if it came at the cost of only being able to control one character, which was pretty crappy. The incredible style and music stand strong, even today. I really need to get around to that remake. And can we also take a quick moment to appreciate an incredibly slept on game this year? Enslaved Odyssey to the West. A friend lent it to me back in 2010, and I was blown away by just how good it was. It was really cool to see Ninja Theory try something different. The gameplay was pretty repetitive, sure, but man, what a poignant tale with incredible character and world building. Now I know the franchise is dead and buried, but I hold out hope that somehow, some way, Enslaved gets a second chance. Arkham City, bruh. This game had a serious hold on your boy. I broke free from the binds of my PSP just for this one. Now, this was the first time playing this combat style, as I didn't get the chance to play Asylum. It spoke to me, y'all. I loved the flow state you could find yourself in as all of your gadgets started to work together in this beautiful dance of
incapacitation.
Nah, you can't convince me Batman hasn't killed a dude or two, or at least sent someone into cardiac arrest. Come on. Anyway, believe it or not, I got so into this shit, I was number 3 in the world with Catwoman in the combat trials. I played it for hours and hours. So good, and one of my top 10, maybe top 15 games of all time. "2012 may not have been what the minds thought it would be, but it spelled the death of my gaming habit, at least briefly. I really basically stopped gaming almost entirely. I had formed a record label with some of the homies, was releasing new albums, working on projects, training, and all types of other shit. I'd continue to play some games like Reminisce, run some Third Strike online, and putz around here and there, but you know, not much else. There were definitely great games from 2012 that I'd eventually play many years later, but none that I played anywhere near the actual year of release. What games do you think I should give a try from this year? Maybe I can do a nostalgia on the one that gets the most votes in 2025. And another one. I feel like it would have been The Last of Us this year, but alas. Or potentially even Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, but you know, I wouldn't play that until 2022 when I covered it right here on this channel. Yeah, it's sort of depressing to look back on now, but I would eventually return to my gaming habits in time. Just hold on, it's coming. All right, now peep it, guys. I am not a Lord of the Rings fan, like, at all. The one time I tried to watch the series, I actually fell asleep during the first movie. I'm just not a fan of high fantasy more generally. But Mordor was the game that brought me back into gaming, at least a little bit. I dipped my toe, we'll say. Getting into orcs' heads via the Nemesis system was just so much fun. The combat system was similar to Arkham, but with its own twists. It was like Batman if he had a sword and could murder people without really giving a fuck. And then we had games like Ubisoft Montreal's Child of Light, and my second favorite Supergiant game, Transistor. These gave me back just enough reason to hop on consoles, at least a little bit. But it wouldn't be until next year when I really get back into gaming. And that game was...
This is for the players. For those that leap into battle in the blink of an eye. For the drivers that compete for their club, no matter where they are. For everyone who has triumphs, tips and tricks to share.
And for those who love to play with complete freedom, this is for the game changers, the innovators. This is for the players. This is PS4.
My homie Monty got me a used copy of Bloodborne for Christmas 2015. Before Bloodborne, I had never actually played any of the Souls games. I played other FromSoft games back in the day like Armored Core 2, but I had avoided Souls games to that point. And even when I played Bloodborne, we had a bit of an interesting relationship, we'll say. I can't remember exactly which boss I was on. I think it was the Shadows of Yarna maybe. But I ran into a boss, and let's just say I kept running out of blood vials over and over and over and over again. So out of sheer frustration, exhaustion / despair, I put the game down for like 8 months, maybe a little bit more. But once I ran out of PS4 games I was interested in at the time, I gave it another go in like mid 2016, and boy, did it click. The second time around, I felt the flow of combat. I learned the intricacies of the trick weapons. I mastered the main game, the DLC, and went on to beat it 3, nearly 4 times. I've since played and beaten Dark Souls 3, Sekiro. I've dabbled in Demon Souls Remake and Elden Ring, as well as getting hella deep into the Souls-likes with games such as The Surge 1 and 2, Neo, Blasphemous 1 and 2, and many others. But nothing, I mean nothing, has held a candle to my very first, the perfect manifestation of Miyazaki's vision, the Lovecraftian GOAT, and a top 10 game of mine all time. The masterpiece that is Bloodborne. Heart Machine's Hyper Light Drifter was near the beginning of a shift in my playing habits. 2015's Shovel Knight would have been my runner-up for last year, you know, if anything mattered, next to Bloodborne, and it saw me begin to really get into indie games. I had missed the early 2010s indie boom with games like Binding of Isaac, Super Meat Boy, Fez, and others, but it was around this time that I genuinely started to keep my eye out for these types of games. For me, having a succinct and clear game mattered a lot in this post-Bloodborne era. I tend to like tightly woven games with intention and purpose in everything. Hyper Light Drifter is a brilliantly dark pixel art action role-playing game that reminds me of the best of the past, with all of the new modernizations. Inventive, focused, and full of heart and passion. It also doesn't get the love that it deserves, so I'll shout its praises from any mountaintop at any time. Toby Fox is a fucking genius. The way Undertale deconstructs not only the JRPG, but gaming as a whole is something else. I knew from the moment I stepped foot into the underground, I was in for something so special. The soundtrack is something that must be heard to be believed, with tracks like Spear of Justice, Asgore, and Ruins being jams I hear pop up on my like tracks on Spotify often. Now, I played many incredible games in 2017. Horizon Zero Dawn, Wolfenstein, New Colossus, Hellblade, but I'd be a liar to say that Undertale hasn't stuck with me the longest. Though, some scenes in New Colossus are emblazoned in my brain too. Oh, and Hellblade. Okay, 2017 was actually a crazy year. I came back right in time for some
bangers.
And the pattern continues. I'm pretty sure this was the year my bro started referring to my taste in gaming as hipster, but you know what? Nah, we ain't gonna allow that sort of slander when we're talking about the classics. I've made my love of Celeste known in a video or two already, so I'll keep it pretty simple. Celeste is one of the most emotionally compelling, movingly beautiful stories I've ever experienced in any game. There are so many memorable moments in this game between Madeline and the various characters that she comes across, including her own self. With incredibly tight gameplay that is punishing yet encouraging, music to die for, over and over and over again to die for, and the aforementioned story that will give you chills, bring you to tears, and have you elated with its emotional leaps, climbing Celeste Mountain is an experience I'll never forget, and one that I'll return to many times. 2018 was stacked too. I mean, I finally got to play Shadow of Colossus, had my first experience with a Dragon Quest when I played and loved 11, and of course the rebirth of Kratos himself in God of War. We were eating good, fellas, real good. Now, remember back in 2015 when Bloodborne absolutely came through and gave me the old riposte? Surprise? From 2015 to 2019, I became somewhat frenzied by Souls games and their Souls likes. So Sekiro felt really refreshing to me. What I appreciate about Sekiro was how much it refined some of the rougher parts of many Souls games. To this day, the combat in the game feels like the best version of the FromSoft formula, with an authentic dance of death in your hands. Paring the game down to one weapon and taking so much agency away from the player can certainly be seen as a negative for many, but for what it lacks in variety, it more than makes up for it in focused and captivating gameplay. And can we just appreciate the level of excellence in boss designs in this game? It's something else, man. No fight has made me feel more like it was putting every single tool to the test, like the battle against Sword Saint Ishin. Overcoming that challenge was an absolute rush. Greed was incredible this year, and Samurai Showdown has been the closest I ever got back to full-blown FGC. I've got maybe 600 or 700 matches in at this point. It was like kind of the perfect COVID game, if I'm being honest. God, I'd give anything to have that with some rollback though. My Tam Tam really suffered under all that lag.
Welcome to a world where you can feel more. See with sound and feel force at your fingertips. Welcome to a new world of immersion.
From a wolf to a ghost? Ghost of Tsushima was the first game I played on my PS5 when I got it in early 2021. I had it sitting there waiting, and boy, am I glad that I did. That opening scene coming over the hill in super high def at 60 frames per second, whew, gives me chills just sitting here thinking about it. The combat is so different than a game like Sekiro, yet it's still just as captivating, with various stances acting in sort of a rock, paper, scissors manner. I also loved the semi-open world, which is more of what I prefer. Places I can go and do shit, but not feel, too overwhelmed and repetitive with the size and the scope. And can we just clap it up for Sucker Punch and how they use the damn wind to guide you instead of a bunch of gaudy map markers? The immersion is just next level in Ghost. One of the most aesthetic and enticing games that I've ever played. The story was emotional and captivating from moment one. Final Fantasy VII Remake was also an absolute thrill to play, alongside Streets of Rage 4, Cuphead, and Spiritfarer. Damn, who said video games are a dying art? Definitely not me.
You're going to love this.
Now, Hades is not only my favorite indie game of all time with a arrow, but it's one of my favorite games, period. The combination of gripping narrative, pitch perfect gameplay, the one more run feeling of the best roguelikes, and the most amazing, layered, and intriguing characters you've ever interacted with. Oh, and my man Darren Korb was in his bag for this soundtrack. Few games have made me laugh as hard, cry as much, or feel so much horniness just oozing through my screen as Hades does. Returnal was a blast as well and is criminally slept on. So let's go ahead and shout the one out for those PS5 owners who haven't given it a go yet. I mean, it's basically third-person Doom. What else is there to say? But yeah, ZEUSSSSSSSSSSSS forever. With how my channel is set up, I don't really play a whole lot of new shit for it. But of all the new games that I have played for it, Signalis is definitely my favorite. Inspired by so many of my favorite games of the past, Signalis takes the vibes of a Parasite Eve, the gameplay of a Resident Evil 2, and bundles it all up with a banger of an emotionally compelling cosmic horror ride. From the sound design to the touching, gripping, and tragic tales in every corner, the classic look, feel, and gameplay of those greats I just mentioned, Signalis is a game that took me back to that fear of playing games in the dark like Dead Space nearly 20 years prior. If you haven't yet played Signalis, I implore you, give it a go. Ragnarok was a great game as well that I truly loved, but I gotta give the shine to a game that not only hit me in the soul more, but also helped shape the future of my channel. You know, maybe I should read The King in Yellow sometime. Alright, now this is the only one I sort of cheated on during this whole thing. I really just wanted to talk about Tetris Effect. You know, since I first played Luminous back on my PSP, Tetsuya Mizuguchi's games have captivated me. I wouldn't play Rez until later, also for this channel, but when I first played Tetris Effect in 2018, I was literally moved to tears by moments in it. Who knew a puzzle game could leave you in an absolute fit? I mean, not me. The Connected Edition just felt so good, and I upgraded to it on my PS5 back in 2023. The simplified mode that allows you to play against others was so much fun and got me right back into the beautifully addictive gameplay in no time. It's such a gorgeous game. I mean, I'm actually scared to play it in VR. I hear it will have you questioning your very sense of what beauty even is. Street Fighter VI hasn't held my attention the way that I expected, but it's one of my favorite fighting games in recent years. That hip-hop aesthetic really speaks to me, and so many of the new characters have so much swagger that it's ridiculous. I need to really put in some time with that one. Alright, now funny enough, this is the only game that I had to go in and change in my list. I didn't anticipate just how much I would love this game. Until a few weeks ago, this spot was reserved for Balatro. You know, that other game that seemingly nobody wanted to win. Sorry, Wukong. Not really. But seriously, guys, Astro Bot caught me entirely by surprise, and I don't think I can say it any better than I did a couple of weeks ago in my nearly 25-minute long video on this exact topic. So if you're curious about my full thoughts, just go check it out after this. For that reason, we'll keep it brief. Astro Bot is fun, period. Pure joy, an unstoppable torrent of dopamine and endorphins held together by the sinew that is the PlayStation brand. Oddly, it feels like a fitting capstone to 30 years of PlayStation. The way it brings all the big and not so big hitters together in one beautifully reverent game, like a little museum of everything it means to be part of this Sony thing. It is a very special, very joyous celebration of what we love about this pastime. I cannot recommend Astro Bot enough.
Go freaking play it. It won Game of the Year for a reason.
Whew. Now, if you've made it this far, I hope you consider subscribing and leaving a comment about some of your favorite games in the past 30 years. I am clearly passionate about the PlayStation brand, and I think that's pretty clear after this God knows how long video. But you're probably wondering, Mr. Zician, what is your single favorite game for all of these consoles? Is it Bloodborne? Close, but no. Could it be something as new as Astro Bot? Nah, as much as I love Astro Bot, just needs to marinate a little bit longer. It's not Final Fantasy VII. It's not Dead Space. So what could it be? Well, for those that know me at all, you already know what I'm about to say. It's Suikoden 2. As the single most important, impactful, and vital game in my life, Suikoden 2 really planted the seed for a lifelong love of gaming in me. Timeless in its look, gameplay, music, story, and characters, Suikoden 2 feels like the culmination of passion and brilliance in a way very few games had before or have since. I cannot wait for the Suikoden remasters to drop in March so that those of you who haven't experienced the game can for the first time while saving yourself a fat stack in the process. But seriously, Suikoden 2, what else is there to say? The greatest video game of my lifetime. And there you have it. 30 years, 30 games. Did your favorites make the list? Any hot takes you'd like to call me out on? Sound off below. And follow me on Blue Sky and Instagram at TheGamersician to keep the convo going. I live for these interactions, y'all, so don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to hear your thoughts. So until next time, peace.